Welcome to the Sherry Ricard Show. I am your host, Sherry Ricard, and I guide women like you to become grounded in success and faith. Tune in every week for faith-inspired episodes and powerhouse interviews centered on faith, family, and business. If you ever felt like you were made for more, then you're in the right place. My hope is that you feel equipped to live out your calling, live exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all that you ask for, and make a difference in the world. Get ready to rise, pray, and conquer, and let's dive in. I'm chatting with Emily Cummins. Emily is the communications pastor for Church of Hope in Ocala, Florida. She's an author and the host of Becoming Me TV. Emily is sharing what it really looks like to pursue becoming who you are, created to be in Christ, and how to stay focused on the journey you were created for.
I am honored to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And just so the audience knows, Emily and I met, and it's so wonderful. I love these conferences, and I love my friends in ministry because they love introducing to each other. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
Emily and I met each other at the I Am Woman conference from a mutual friend that we have, Nicole Crank. We love her. You guys may have remembered her on my show, and I was actually on the Nicole Crank TV show back in November last year. And she introduced us. We were both VIPs, so we were treated really special by Nicole. And I never noticed you had the Becoming tattoo. So when I saw that, I was like, I don't remember seeing that on her. I got to go maybe see what this is all about. But I'm not going to spoil it. I want you to tell everybody why you have that and a little bit about you and your Becoming Me TV show.
Absolutely. So, spoiler alert, I do have like 8 tattoos now as well, which is kind of crazy.
I didn't see
But
those
it
either.
started with one. It started with one tattoo on my wrist, the word becoming. And honestly, for me, like I am an Enneagram 1, your classic type A personality. So I've been a perfectionist my entire life from the time I was a little girl, whether it was like ballet routines, school grades, you name it. And in the middle of college, I was reading a book by Shauna Niequist called Bittersweet. And literally one chapter in that book resonated with me because she was talking to like the 20 something in the room, which was me at that time, and inviting you to become who God made you to be, and that life's not about being perfect. So, of course, that resonated. And I decided wrist tattoos were like the in thing at the time, too. And so I tattooed becoming on my wrist. And that was my reminder and invitation from God. Like, you don't need to be perfect. God didn't design you or me to be perfect, but he made me to always be becoming who he made me to be. And so that's been my journey since. Started a blog around the same time, and since then we've shared over 200 people's stories, hosted conferences, wrote and published a book. But it all started with really a personal invitation for me and my type A personality to step into the messy, beautiful part of life.
Aw, I love that. I want you to
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about, so is that how the TV, the whole Becoming Me
Mm.
TV started? Did
Yeah.
you write the book first or the TV? Which came first?
So it's all kind of like an accident I didn't plan on at all. I am a writer, like it's how I process the world. And so I started as a blogger, like when blogger.com or blogspot was a thing. I was a junior in high school, and my blogs, looking back at a lot of them, were so silly. I've had to unpublish a ton. I'm like, my writing has definitely grown over the years, but I just was writing and blogging and processing what becoming meant to me personally.
Mhm.
And fast forward past college graduation, in 2014, I was living in Las Vegas, working at Central Christian Church out there. I went to a writer's boot camp where they really challenged us to get intentional with our writing.
Mm.
And it was at that boot camp that I had this light bulb moment that if becoming meant so much to me, like what would it mean to other people? And at some point, like reading my vantage point of that word, I mean, it kind of only goes so far. Like, I think people would be interested in other people's perspectives. So I left that boot camp, and this is where the TV part starts. I called my friend Amy and I was like, hey, why don't you come to my apartment? We'll set up like a camera, we'll film your story, we'll put it on YouTube, my blog. This is 2014. And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So we started filming people's stories, and that's now become the podcast aspect of becoming me.tv. And now we've published the book and a planner and hosted conferences and things like that. But it really started with a blog and then asking a friend to share her story. And then hundreds of people have shared since.
Oh, wow. I love that because, I remember, and gosh, it's been several years ago, that I had a friend of mine in Dallas and she was a TV
Mhm.
personality. So being in front of the TV was just super easy for her. But she wanted me to start filming so it was really called Real Girl Talk. And it was just
Okay.
a FaceTime YouTube series thing. And it got to the point to where I thought, there is no possible way that I am going
Mhm.
to get dressed, do my hair, turn on the lights, and all this stuff every Wednesday at 7 p.m. I'm just not going to do it. So I thought there has to be a better way. And then I was like, ooh, podcast. I can do that in my pajamas and my shorts and my socks, right? And so I thought, oh, my star slippers, nobody will see it. And I thought, this is what I'll do. But it started with all about the Facebook and then with the
Mhm.
YouTube. And I look back at some of that now, and you just gave me an idea. I need to
Uh-huh.
take some of it down.
Oh no.
Awful. It is so awful. There was one, I'm not kidding you. There was one where I interviewed just an old childhood friend. She was younger than me, but she
Mhm.
has her own jewelry company now. She's all over like Texas and everywhere. She has the most beautiful jewelry. And so I was interviewing her about her jewelry. And when you go back
Uh-huh.
and you look at the video, it looks like we're talking heads. Like
Oh
the
no.
way I set up the video, you can't even see our
Mhm.
bodies. We just look like
Mhm.
little hands and
Oh no.
our little heads are talking. And I'm like, what was I doing? And so my friend was so funny. She's sweet. She didn't want to hurt my feelings. And she goes, maybe
Uh-huh.
you need to adjust the camera so I can see a little more of your body. That was what her way of telling me you look like a talking head without saying.
Oh no.
I never really incorporated much of my podcast. Yeah, a little bit with guests, like I would show just a little bit snippet of it, but I never got in the big habit of posting it on YouTube. But I really want to change that because now
Yeah.
we're back to doing the podcast where we have spotlight guests, right? So every month I'm going to
Mhm.
spotlight one special person to really talk about their life and their career and their journey
Mhm.
and all of those great things and that'll really inspire everybody. So I am going to go back to putting those on YouTube, and I'll probably put this crazy one on
Yeah.
YouTube because I don't know. You almost get to the point now when you reach your 50s. What is the saying?
Mhm.
Like when you're 20, you worry about what everyone thinks, but by the time you're 50, you don't even want anybody to care because you don't care. I mean, it's just like I'm too old to care
Oh
what
no.
you think about me, and it's like a total opposite when you're younger, and then you get older. You're like, yeah, I don't really care. I'll put whatever I want on there. I think it's awesome that you took that because when I saw Becoming and I was reading a little bit about it, I was seeing
Mhm.
like becoming dot dot dot. What is that? So are you becoming?
Mhm.
Yes, we're all becoming what God created us to be, but you could be becoming
Mhm.
the next Miss America, right? You could be becoming a minister, you could
Right.
be becoming a chef or a realtor or a
Mhm.
teacher or a healthcare
Yeah.
professional. Becoming could be becoming what? Becoming in anything that God
Mhm.
created you to be. But I think
Mhm.
sometimes, and help me out with this, I think sometimes
Yeah.
we forget because we have our work life, right? We have our professional life and what we do every single day. And then when you're a Christian, you almost feel like, well, I can't really talk about that
Mm.
because we're not supposed to talk about our faith. We're not supposed to talk about quote unquote religion. I don't even like that word. Quote unquote religion in the workplace. But in
Mhm.
actuality, no matter what you do in your workplace as a professional, whatever it is, you could be working as a
Mhm.
teller in the bank, or you could be, in big district sales in the healthcare industry, like I am in the state of Florida. But I think that whatever you do, it's really the light that you shine. It's that
Mhm.
inner light that people go, she's something about her. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about her that's different. You want them to come to you and be drawn to you so
Yeah.
you can share the love of Jesus, right? We don't have to
Yeah.
stand on a street corner with a bullhorn, although I'm not against that.
Yeah.
Some people need to have a bullhorn in their face, especially these days. I'll be the first to say it. That's not what I do. It may be for somebody else, but I think for the rest of us, if you're not in ministry and up on a stage every single
Mm.
day, then you can be that good Christian and be that kind person and be that light for somebody without ever actually saying a word. Just it just
Yep.
shows. And that kind of goes with becoming.
Have you
Yeah.
ever heard this quote, "You may be the only Bible that someone reads"?
Oh, I love that.
That's and I don't remember who originally said that, but as you were just unpacking that, that's what it made me think of. Because really, our lives, they either are going to point people to the hope we have in Christ
Right.
because we are walking with a different confidence and joy and light in our step, or it's not going to look different than the world around them. And so, how we live out our stories, it really matters. And your story really is who you are and who you're becoming. And
Right.
there's another quote too that I always enjoy. Like, if you want to impress people, show them your strengths. But if you want to impact them, them your weaknesses. And
Wow.
so when you walk into your workplace or the grocery store or your gym, like walking in authentically yourself. And if you're
Mm,
having a rough day, like being honest about it and still being kind. Because people want to put the filter on or they want to just impress everybody. We want to be liked. And so when someone shows up real and authentic and they're still kind,
right.
that screams like, what's different about them? And I want to know what it is. And then
Right.
people start to ask and then share your story.
That's awesome because I know I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and
Mm.
we were talking about how you can be a Christian without actually saying, "Well, I'm a Christian and this is what I do." And
Mhm.
like spill out your resume of Christianity basically, but we all are a walking testimony. So we have to
Mhm.
be careful that we are actually being proactive and not reactive when we're confronted, right? So
Right.
there's like little
Right.
things that you have to be real careful. We don't need to get on social media, drop F bombs. If you're going to drop them in your house because you're yelling at your dog or you're having an issue at home, that's between you and Christ. But when you're spreading
Mhm.
that testimony,
Mm.
as you're saying you're a Christian and then you're getting on social media, dropping F bombs, now you're not
Mm.
doing that. It's not between you and Christ anymore,
Mm.
right? You are spreading a testimony of
Mhm.
someone that they're not going to look at and say, "Well, she's a light and I want to be just like her." They're one
Yeah.
that's the world. That's the way the world looks at worldly people. We don't want
Mhm.
people looking at us as the world does. We're not going to act like the
Yeah.
world does, right? We're supposed to be a reflection of Christ and
Mhm.
have that light. So I almost think, even though I am not perfect, girl, I will tell you, I am so far from perfect. But one thing that I try to do is be Christ like in every single thing
Mhm.
that I do. I
Mhm.
make mistakes. I go to God with
Mhm.
that because I think we run to our
Yeah.
friends and our family and all these things, and then we go
Mm.
pray when we really should be talking to God
Yeah.
first before we're
Yeah.
talking to everybody else. But it is so true. And
Mhm.
I would like for you to share a little bit about everybody listening right now that says, "Oh, okay, I hear what Emily's saying, but how do I intentionally pursue my journey in life of being what God created me to be? Because I have no idea what God wants me to be." What would you say
Yep.
to that person?
I have found myself there too. So I completely understand where this person is coming from. Or as I would say, you're a warrior friend, right? Because the words that we use matter. And so I want to call you up like you are a warrior, you are becoming. And for me, becoming really is about who you are as a human being, who you are as a person. It's not necessarily tied to the what that you're going to do, but it's the
Mm,
overflow of who you are internally, as you even just unpacked a few moments ago. It's that light and that joy and that hope that radiates from you. So in 2016, I had left a job in Las Vegas, moved back to the state of Florida, being near family, launched a company to help other businesses with their strategic development, right? And it was really successful. I had a full roster of clients. Life was happening from the outside looking in. It looked like I was doing it, right? And on
mhm,
the inside, I was so just dissatisfied. I wasn't
mm,
content. I was frustrated. And I really started to tip into this place where I felt more empty on the inside. I felt like I was on this brink of depression. And
mm.
I just found myself saying, like, who am I? And I started talking with my parents, and without hesitating, my dad looked me in the eyes and he said, Emily, you know who you want to be. You just have to choose to be her.
Mm,
And that stopped me in my tracks. And it was the light bulb that I needed to go off because at my core, and this is where I believe any warrior friend listening, like, at your core who you want to be. You
yeah,
want to be kind. You want to be full of joy, hope, loving, whatever the adjectives that are that you want to put in place. You know who you want to be as a person.
right.
You just have to choose to be you. It's out of the overflow that then we step into, okay, being on a church staff like I am, or being an author, speaker, podcaster, working in a medical profession, because
Mm,
those are overflows of the giftings and the passions that God has given us, the things that make us laugh and cry or break our heart. And so
mm,
when you get to the root of, who you are in Christ, that first and foremost, my identity is rooted in the reality that I am a daughter of the King of Kings because I've stepped into a relationship with Jesus Christ. From there, I get to walk confidently and I get to explore, okay, what am I passionate about? What
mm.
has He gifted me with? And then from there, I'm going to try different careers and things and see what sticks and what's fun and what brings me to life and where I can make the most impact in the world around me. So if there's a warrior friend who maybe felt like how I did in 2016, and you're just like, who am I? My first challenge would be like, who you want to be, choose to be you. And
Mm.
so when you hear that statement, like, pause and sit with it. And what are the first few things that come to mind for you? Like, who at your core, when you're not trying to please the people around you or live up to other people's expectations, who do you want to be? And second, like, and first and foremost before that, like, do you even have a relationship with Jesus Christ? Because if you don't, that's where a lot of this confusion is coming in because you know who you are when you know whose you are. And so getting that piece first and foremost, and then just start walking confidently in who God's made you to be, rooted in Him first.
That's true because if you're confused, you don't have a relationship with Christ. Let's just start with there, right? Start with that.
Yeah.
If you don't have a relationship with Christ, then the odds are that you are frustrated. You live probably with anxiety, chaos. You have confusion about a lot of things because that's what the enemy does. That is not
Hmm.
of God. God is not of chaos and confusion. He brings internal peace. And I
Hmm.
just did a podcast this week, this Monday that it aired, and it was on peace and what it means to have God's peace. And there were three barrier blessings that can block you from that. And it is not knowing Christ, not
Hmm.
leaning on his promises because you may not know what they are. You may not read
Yeah.
the Bible, you may not know what his promises are. So you have to start with that. But it's also not being able to find your peace because we don't believe that he's in control, right? So
Right.
if he's in control, no matter what the chaos and confusion is that you have in your
Hmm.
life, what's going wrong, then if you actually have that internal joy and that peace, even you might get frustrated and your hair may stand up on the back of your neck and your face may turn red and smoke coming out of your ears because you're mad at somebody. If you just take a deep breath and calm down, because we can't hear God if we're doing all the talking. If you're
Hmm.
fighting with somebody and you're doing all the fuss and you cannot hear what he's saying, and if you'll just be quiet and listen to the words coming out of his mouth, they're not audible, but you have
Yep.
a knowing, a deep down in your spirit
Yep.
knowing this is the voice
Yep.
of God, then he will speak to you and he will guide you. And those are his promises, his promise of internal peace. So I like that you said that. You said something about, I was reading your bio, you said something
Mhm.
about personality types.
Yes. Okay. So are you familiar with the Enneagram or no?
A little bit, but not enough. So
Okay.
enlighten us all.
Okay.
Enlighten us all.
You got it. So the Enneagram is a personality resource similar to Myers-Briggs,
Okay.
DISC. There's the color theory. Like, there's so
I've
many
done
different
colors.
ways you can
I've
do
done
this,
colors.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So picture in your mind one of those. And for those listening, whichever one is your favorite, I've landed on the Enneagram. And there are essentially 9 different personality types, 1 through 9. And what I appreciate about this resource, and it makes sense with my personality mix as well. So the 1 is the perfectionist, the reformer. You want everything to be right in the world, which is much of the story, right? I wanted everything around me to be perfect. So I'm trying to control. And God's saying, Emily, I never made you to be perfect. Let's always be growing and becoming. And so the Enneagram actually helps you be aware of who you are, but then grow through your personality. And a lot of the other tests I've taken over the years, sometimes they're just like, here's who you are. and there might not always be those growth steps accompanied with it. And so the
Mhm.
Enneagram really shows many different angles of where you head in stress, where you head in health, and then how you can grow along the way. And you don't just, well, this is who I am. I'm a perfectionist, so this is my
Right.
life. It's like, no, this is how you're wired naturally, and here's how we continue to grow and become you. Um, One of my favorite resources, a coach I work with, her name is Jackie Brewster. She's Enneagram with JB on Instagram. And the work I have done with her since 2020 has been transformative in my becoming journey. So many layers of just continuing to understand who I am, how God has wired me, and then growing with each and every year. Like I couldn't recommend working with a coach more, whether it's
Yeah.
Enneagram or whatever personality test that you enjoy.
I took the I'm sure there's different colors testing or whatever, but it
Uh-huh.
came from Street Finders 2.0, and it was
Yeah.
part where when I became, selected as a field trainer in an organization that I was in, and we had to sit down and learn all the personalities. Once we could work well with, the physicians that we were
Mhm.
calling on, as well as understand each other and understand
Yeah.
the personality type of the person that we were training. Because if they're not
Yeah.
like you, then you're just going, I don't even know if this person gets it. But then
Right.
if you see those little hints of who they are. So of
Mhm.
course I was just bright red, right? Like a fire truck red. And then I had just a little bit of the blue, because you have a little bit more of
Okay.
something else, and then those two that are kind of hanging around. I think it was green and yellow.
Mhm.
And so I had a little bit
Okay.
of the blue, which is more of like the analytical person. The yellow was like
Mhm.
the life of the party. And the green was more
Okay.
like the school teacher type.
Okay.
And it
Okay.
was so crazy when I got finished doing all this testing. We were in Orlando for a couple of days, had an amazing coach and mentor that was there. And when we got finished, I had the biggest aha moments of everyone in my family, because I immediately went, "Oh, I get it. She's yellow. Oh,
Mhm.
she's
Mhm.
green. That's why she does
Mhm.
these things." Well, then if she's
Uh-huh.
green, in order for me to be, in order to communicate with her a little bit better, I have to do this.
Right.
And it
Yep.
kind of brings back to the principle that I heard one time in a sermon that said, if you want somebody to change, you must have to change. You first have to change yourself. Well, the
Mhm.
color wheel of this Strength Finders color test
Mhm.
did exactly that. And it made you think
That's
back.
awesome.
Thought, okay, well, if I'm red and a little bit
Yeah.
of blue, in order for me to communicate with a green person
Mhm.
or a yellow person, which I had very little of, I needed to do X, Y, and Z. And it actually
Mhm.
really works. And when that person starts talking, I found myself kind of slowing down. I would be like, okay,
Mhm.
I need to slow my roll because I'm overwhelming for a green.
Yeah.
So I need to slow down. I need to talk a little bit slower. I need to, not that they're
Mhm.
dumb, but that's the world they live in. They don't want to
Mhm.
have 1,000 things thrown at them, right? They just don't operate that way. But it teaches
Mhm.
you how to communicate with all those people. I know that it
Okay.
did wonders for me in the medical
Mhm.
sales environment, because I had to deal with a
Yeah.
lot of reds, being
Mhm.
neurologist, cardiologist,
Mhm.
rheumatologist, all these red people. And some of them are more blue, where they're analytical and they're like, okay, just
Mhm.
get to the point, tell me, the facts and get on out of my office kind of thing. So it
Mhm.
helped me quite a bit. But I think that we can
Mhm.
utilize what you
Yeah.
said in those personalities when we are sharing our
Mhm.
stories,
Yep.
and when we're also talking about the love and life of Christ, and
Yeah.
why we're a Christian. Somebody
Mhm.
asked me one time, "Why are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Well, why are you not?" It's really like my answer. I'm confused. Is that a trick question? But it really helps you
Mhm.
talk to those people when you can kind of
Mhm.
figure out on a color
Oh,
wheel
yeah.
where they're coming from and why they
Mhm.
react the way that they do. And it allows you to be proactive and not
Mhm.
reactive, which is
Absolutely.
what I try to do. I love talking to you.
I
So
love talking to you.
we're gonna chat tomorrow. Guys,
Yeah.
I'm going to be on Emily's show, Becoming
Yay.
Be. We're going to record. Don't know when it's
Mhm.
going to air, but that's okay. That's awesome. We'll share it with you guys. And I know a lot of my audience, of course, knows my story and my son Bryant passing away and everything about that. But I will share my story with Emily and her guest on becomingme.tv, which will be wonderful. Thank you. I
Thank
appreciate it
you.
so much. So I want you to tell everybody, first of all, where we can find you on social media, because that's where everybody goes.
Yep.
And do you have any conferences or anything that's coming up that the audience can be a part of?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for inviting me to be with you today. I'm so honored and I love talking with you too. So on social media and websites, it's pretty easy. Becomingme.tv is the website where you can find all the things from links to books and planners and podcasts and all that fun stuff, all the stories that I talked about. And then on social media, you can follow the podcast page. It's becomingme.tv as well. And then I'm personally Emily B. Cummins. That is me on like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And then coming up, I am planning, this will be the first place that I share it. I am hopeful that in 2025, we have the next Becoming event in Ocala, Florida area, and then we stream it as well. We hosted them several years in a row. The last time was in 2019, which is kind of crazy. It's been a minute. And so 2025, I am planning tentatively to be the year. In the meantime, we've launched a really cool way for women to connect in the Central Florida area through different classes. So we do like six to like 4 week classes at a time that women register for. And then I get to be a friend matchmaker. And so after they register, I place them all at tables where I think they would make good friendship connections. And we've seen a lot of really cool friendships bubble up from these becoming classes through Church of Hope. And so that's been really fun. So whether we just continue classes in 2025 or we do that and launch an event, stay tuned. I know all those details will for sure be on social
Absolutely.
media as
I'm
well.
for an event. I'm all about events. So I am 100% for an event, and
Yes,
Ocala is not that far. So
I
it's
know. You can come right on over.
I can just come right on over. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that, because I want to share an event, and there was a little ad for it at the beginning of the podcast. But ladies, I'm telling you, you do not want to miss the joyful event that my friend Judy Weber is having in Panama City Beach, September 16th through the 18th. You don't want to miss it. It's Holy Spirit filled business women, and you do not want to miss it. She's going to have a VIP day if you want to come as a VIP on that 19th. But I am probably going to be on stage day 2, just doing a short little blurb for her. We don't want to miss the event. I'm going to be there. If you show up to the event, please come up to me and let me know that you listen to the show. Introduce yourself, because I'm super excited, and it's right on the beach. It's right on the beach in Panama City Beach at the embassy. So make sure it's Joyful Business Live is what it is. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. For her event. I'm just kind of going and helping. That's it.
That's awesome.
But it's gonna be amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you, and I will see you soon.
Thank you. I'm honored and I'm excited to see you tomorrow when we film for Becoming Me.tv.
Thank you so much for spending time with me today on the Sherry Ricard Show. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be forever grateful if you would just take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star review. Also, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new episode drop. Share this podcast with someone else who may need encouragement today, and tag me on Instagram at the Sherry Ricard Show to let me know that you're listening. Check the helpful links in the podcast notes. Join me also on Thursdays live on Instagram and Facebook, Empowerment is Beauty, for our weekly live devotionals, Rise, Pray, Conquer. I look forward to meeting you there. Until next week, God bless.